6.
Negative 8 plus 4. Negative 8 plus 4. Add those numbers up first. And then divide that value by 2.
Minus negative 2.
Yes, good. And then anybody get the other one? Negative 5 plus 1 divided by 2.
Negative 2.
Yep, it's both negative 2 in this case. Good. Questions? All right, now, this next problem. It really should be, hold on, let me fix that. You have a line segment. Now they're saying K is the midpoint between J and L. So here's J, L. Midpoint is right in the middle. They're not be drawn to the best of scales, but K you could say is right in the middle. Now, what do we know about the distance? If K is the midpoint, what do we know about the distance from J to K, and then again from K to L? What do we know about this distance from J to K along with the distance from K to L? If it's a midpoint, then these two distances must be the same. Good, Joey. These two distances will be the same. So from J to K, 6x minus 14. And then from K to L, 2x plus 42. If they're the same, then to set up our equation, what symbol is going to go between the two expressions? Equals. So this is your equation right here. 6x minus 14 equals 2x plus 42. And now you're at a point you need to solve. So first, well, this is a two-part. First, you need to get the x, which you should be able to do by now. Okay, Brian, that includes you. Get going with that pen. Or pen, really should be pencil. So solve for x. That's step number 1 you need to take, ladies and gentlemen. You solve for the x. And then for step 2, evaluate. That means you plug your x into the expression. JK is 6x minus 14. So first you need to get the x. And then you need to evaluate by substitution. So the x, you should be able to solve, no problems. Come around to see how we're doing here. Plus 14, plus 14. Get to do the opposite. Yeah. Check your division. number did you get for the x? Check that division again. And everything, all the steps were good. Just check your. You got the x and you got the number. Very good. All right, you got the x. So that's a minus 14, not plus 14. Okay, plus 14 goes over here. Opposite side of the equal sign. Right, and I think you had a similar situation. Okay. That's supposed to be a minus, plus. So you have to change. You have to change that plus 14 to minus 14.
Oh.
Okay, that's better. Now you're going to plug this value of x into that expression. Now you're good. You're good. You're good. And then, yep, you caught it. You fixed it. You missed it. What do you think? JK is 6x minus 14. So write 6x minus 14. Well, write it next to the JK. Now you're going to replace the x with the number 14. So next line. 6 parentheses. There you go. Now you, and basically you can do that in the calculator. All right, Andrew, what do we do here? Okay. So we're going to have to move one of our terms. So you can pick any term you want to move from one side of the equal sign to the other. You got a free step. That's the first step. Good morning. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
You know what, that is the JMU hood,
Okay.
but, Kim said that they might have extra hood things there, but I would just order one and make sure that if you want. Hopefully that works out.
All right. Thank you. All right, let's see. Well, what's 42 plus 14? You have to change that number. All right.
Yes.
Given what we're seeing, we definitely have to review this. Now, some of you got it. Some of us, again, all right, keep your heads up. This is not sleepy time. Phones need to be away. I see that's a problem for some of us. And it's going to be a big problem because for some of you, your next step is going to be summer school. All right, here we go. Solve this problem. Your x's, opposite sides of the equal sign. We need to start moving terms. So 6x, 2x are on opposite sides. Now 6x minus 14, can't keep them. A lot of us, okay, you knew you had to add 14 here. But a lot of you forgot, you don't add 14 here. You add it over here. A lot of us are making that mistake. So now we have positive negative 14 disappears. So you're left with 6x. So some of you got that. Equals 2x. Now the first step was always a free move. But then 42 plus 14. Some of us subtracted rather than added. Now some of us didn't even know what to do. Anytime you have these types of problems, your first step's a free step. Move any term you want. But when you move it, opposite signs, which a lot of us are still struggling. A lot of us have it, but a lot of us don't have, still struggle. 42 plus 14, 56. Now, this next step, x's are still opposite each other. So we got to move. Now, 2x and 56, you cannot combine. You can bring the 2x to the other side, but when you do that, you're taking it away from here. But if you take it away from here, you have to take it away from here too. Again, too many of us are taking it away from the same side of the equal sign. Six x minus 2x, 4x. Equals 56. Now, last step. To get the x by itself, we divide both sides by. Well, what's our number here? What are we multiplying x by? 4. So you have to divide both sides by 4. 56 divided by 4. A lot of us, some of us are struggling even here. As a result, x is, what's 56 divided by 4? 14. And then just plug your, x is 14. And plug that up in here. So then, JK equals 6 times 14 minus 14. So that was the second half of the problem. And then what did we get for the value of JK? What was the distance from J to K? Substitute and evaluate. I know some of you have it. Don't be shy to say it. Distance from J to K.
70.
Yeah. Again, a lot of you know more than you think. But a lot of, if you don't know it, you still ask. Don't be afraid to ask a question, because some of us are not asking questions. You need to ask those questions now. Because are you going to be able to ask me questions on how to do problems on the final? No. Questions. Anybody have questions for me before we go to the next problem? And this is also time for some of you to reflect on, okay, this is what I really need to learn as I prep for my final. Because again, your final is only a little over a week away. I know there's other finals going on too, but this is not that far away. All right, questions before we move on? Because you're going to see a lot of these types of problems. This setup, expression equal to another expression, throughout today, next time, and your final. Okay, and again, before I go on, we'll continue now. Okay, next page, you're going to get a problem that looks like this. I need a setup. How are we going to set up this problem? Near pair of angles, they're right next to each other. They form a straight line. The sum is 180. Who could tell us how we set up our equation here? Who wants to take a guess? So this is something, if I were you, I would definitely take note of this little tidbit here. So who would like to take a guess as to how we're going to set up this linear equation? Do we set them equal to each other, or do we add them up to 180? We form a straight line. That means am I putting an equal sign? Or is it okay, which one of these two equations am I using? Is it the top or bottom? Am I using this one? Am I using that one? Linear pair. Is this sum equal to 180? All right, Dennis, did you just guess or did you think it through? Okay, well, thank you for your honesty. Okay, do we see anything about adding up to 180 on this top equation? Is there anything that says this adds up top equation?
Yeah, it says, like on the question, it says the sum is 180.
Okay, is this sum 180 here?
No.
Then it can't be that one. You have to use that one. Now, other thing, before you move on, can we simplify what's going on up here? I have an 8x and a 13x. They're on the same side of the equal sign.
Combine like terms.
Okay, so what do we get? Good call. We are going to combine like terms.
21x.
You do get a 21x. So let's combine like terms. You have to do that on the first step here. So we get 8x, 13x. That gives us 21x. What about the 5 and the minus 14?
9.
Watch your signs. What type of 9? What type of 9? Is it positive or negative 9?
Negative.
Why negative? Well, which sign's bigger, 14 or 5? Or which number's bigger, 14 or 5?
14.
And is it positive or negative?
Positive.
14's positive?
I thought that was a minus sign.
It is a minus sign. I mean, or it could be a negative.
So is it negative?
Yeah, it is a negative. But in the end, it's still going to be negative 9. Let's think about it like this. You have $5, but you owe 14. That's a negative 9. So this is your setup. Now, are you at a point where you could solve for the x? You should be able to. So this is your setup. This is two-step. You should be able to solve for this x. You've got a minute tops. Okay. Check these numbers. The x is correct, but you have to check those numbers. All right, so now the question is, can you combine those two terms, the 21x and the minus 9?
No.
You have to move something. Yeah, since there's no x here, there's a term that doesn't have the x. So what's the opposite of minus 9?
Add 9 to both sides.
There you go. Add 9 to both sides. You got it. All right, so Dennis told us the next step was to add 9 to both sides. Add 9 to both sides, so plus 9. And then the 9's cancel. So you're left with 21x equals, what's 180 plus 9? Okay, now what's our last step? So that's a good, what do we have to do now to both sides of the equal sign? By? Very good, Cindy. Divide by 21. So what's 189 divided by 21?
9.
Yes, thank you, Dennis. X is 9. And now you're going to plug the 9 into both these expressions. 8 times 9 plus 5. And then similarly, 13 times 9, oh, not 90, minus 14. So what do we get for the first angle then?
Oh, for the first one?
Yeah.
37.
Good. What about the second one?
106.
Yep. And make sure 77 plus 103. Do we get 180 when we add those two numbers?
Yeah.
Good. You're right. That's exactly how you do it. Good job. Okay, questions? So again, this is the concept you need to know. Linear pair of angles. Add up to 180. So this is your setup right here. You gotta get that set up. All right. You gotta get that set up. It's the most important part of the whole problem. Questions? Yeah, be familiar. Again, you need to be familiar with the diagram and the setup. You have to be able to relate what you see here to there. All right, questions before we move on? Because you will get a question like this on your final, I guarantee it. All right. Everybody, so we're going to move on if we're good here. Brian, did you get that? All right. Okay, because again, on your final, better make sure you can have it on the final. All right, here we go. This next one, vertical angles, they're congruent. So they're congruent. What do we know about the relationship between these two angles? If two angles are congruent, their measurements are into the knee. Same, equal. So then how we set up our equation here?
7x plus 17 equals 8x plus 2.
Yep, there you go. There's your setup. Now, x is on opposite sides. So we need to start moving some terms from one side to the other. Now, this one's not going to be too bad. I usually tell students, move the x with the lower term, lower coefficient. So which one's lower, 7 or 8? So that's something to think about. Now I'm gonna come around. Now, if you do get your X value, plug them in and make sure the sum, everything works. All right, that's a good X value. Yep, you got it. Hold on. Let's see something. Watch your sign. The sign is correct, but watch this final value. -2 rather than +2. 17 minus 2. What do we have right now? You don't know? Okay. Well, look, which X has the lower number, the 7 or the 8? Who's lower? So you're going to want to subtract 7x on both sides. That's going to be step 1. That's better. Okay. Which X is lower? 7 or 8? You're going to want to move that one to the other side of the equal sign. So what's the opposite of plus 7x? Minus 7x there. Minus 7x there. Yep, you got it. Well done. Fix. Yep, that's better. Yep. Good job. That's a good first step. And then, yep, do it.
Here, right?
No, here and there. Remember, the solid line goes down to the equal sign. Then just subtract the two numbers. Yeah. And then you really have to divide. I mean, you can if you want. What are you going to divide both sides by?
1.
1. So if you divide anything by 1, does anything really change? So then so you have your X value. And then you're just going to substitute that number into there and there. So,
I'm confused here.
okay, you're right. 17 equals 1x plus 2. And can you combine these two terms? Somebody's got to move. Do you see an X over here?
Yeah, well, that's
No, no, that's gone. You don't
yeah,
see
that's
it
what I'm
anymore.
saying, that's plus sign.
It's gone. So now you just, which term must move? You don't see an X over. No, that's only one term left. You have to move that term.
So, the other item for
What's the opposite of plus?
subtracting from 17?
So 17 minus 2. Yep. All right. Okay. Now, in the end, this is only going to be a two-step problem. If you subtract 7x both sides. Again, some of us, I like how you have an idea. You're left with 17 equals, what's 8 minus 7? I start off with 8x's, I lose 7. How many are left? 1. Now, do we really need that 1 in the end? Is this one necessary? No. But you could keep it. I'm not going to argue if you kept it. And then you have to subtract 2 on this side because you can't combine these two terms, so this one has to move. Same thing over here. Has to move. And then in the end, 2's cancel, 17 minus 2, 15 equals 1x. But you don't need the x, I mean the 1 rather, so you're just left with x is 15. And then last thing you have to do, substitute 7 times 15 plus 17. 8 times 15 plus 2. Then you should get 122. Questions? Good here, ladies and gentlemen? Again, this is being recorded. So if you need to, go back, look at the recordings. All right. Here we go. Questions before we continue? All right. For this one, I'll make this bigger. All right. So they're saying, ladies and gentlemen, angle 1 is 58 degrees. So this angle right here is 58. Do you have enough information to get all the other angles? Yes and no. Okay, remember, on that paper, you're not going to be able to share notes with your neighbor when you take your final. I don't know why we're doing that. All right. This angle right here, 58 degrees. Is there enough information such that I can get all 7 of the other angles? We can. Now, what do we know right away? Given this angle 58 degrees, which other angle or angles can we get right off the top? Now, the note. Really? Again, lines are parallel. Well, right away, in this angle 58, we right away know a few other angle measures. Who could tell us either what one of our other angles will be right off the bat and give me a reason why? You could either say 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5, maybe even 7. Who's going to tell me what? Somebody, anybody. What do we know about our lines? Okay, Dennis. 2 angles that form a line. What's the sum of those 2 angles?
58.
What must the sum of the 2 angles be if they form a straight line? We just did it maybe a couple problems ago.
180.
180. So then, if this angle is 58, how do we get this other angle? What could we do with the 180 and the 58? Oops. I'll type it in. The grand total is 180. What sign am I going to put between the 150 and the 58 to get that other angle? If we don't know this, we're in a whole lot of trouble. Put a minus sign. That's right, Joey. 180 minus 58. 122. That's right. So, Joey and Andrew are right. 150, 180 minus 58 is 122. That's angle number 2. Because angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair. What else do we know? What about these other angles? Anybody want to take a guess as to what all these other angles can and should be? What about 1 and 3? What's their relationship? We just talked about it a moment ago on the previous slide. Huh? 1 and 3. Look where they are. There's angle 1, there's angle 3. What's their relationship? They're congruent. But who can tell us why they're congruent? Okay, good enough for me. Vertical angles, so 1 and 3 are vertical angles. Good enough. And basically, all right, what about angle 4? What would angle 4 have to be then? How many degrees is angle number 4? Well, angles 1 and 3 are vertical. Can we say the same thing about angles 2 and 4? Are angles 2 and 4 also vertical? One and 3 are directly across. Are 2 and 4 directly across? Yeah. So if angle 2 is 122, angle 4 must also be how many degrees? If they're vertical, they're congruent. Angle 4 must also be 122. Now 5, 6, 7, 8. Can anybody figure out what the relationship is between angle 5 and either angle 3 or angle 1? Angle 5, what's its relationship to either angle 3 or angle 1? So what do we know about what do we know about the relationship between angle 1 and angle 5? It begins with a C. They're congruent, but why? Why are they congruent? Who could tell us why angle 1 and angle 5 are congruent? That also begins with a letter C. Give you a hint. Chorus. Is corresponding sounding familiar to anybody? Corresponding angles? Yeah. Angle 5 is 58. Okay, what about angle 6? So angles 1 and 5. They're corresponding angles, so they're going to always be congruent. What about angle? And then basically, another relationship, and again, you need to know these relationships. Angles 4 and 6. What's their relationship, angles 4 and 6? They are, it's 3 words. First word begins with an A. Alternate. Now, they inside or outside the parallel lines? 4 and 6, inside or outside? Look where 4 and 6 are on this diagram. Are they inside? 4 and 6, inside or outside parallel lines? They're inside the parallel lines. So 4 and 6 be alternate interior angles. So if angle 4 is 122, so is angle 6. And then 6 and 8 are going to be congruent because they're vertical. So are 5 and 7. But there's multiple reasons. You have multiple reasons. I mean, another reason could have been angle 1 is 7. Are alternate exterior angles because they're outside. 1 and 7 are outside the parallel lines. 3 and 5 were interior. 2 and 8 exterior. Remember, we have to know these relationships. I should say example. You have to know those relationships because if we don't understand the relationships with our angles, which we've done plenty of times, verticals, congruent, linear pair, add up to 180. Consecutive interiors, that's another one. Angles 4 and 5 are consecutive interiors. Three and 6, same thing, consecutive interiors, so you could add that to the mix. Questions, anybody? Anybody have any questions on these? Because again, I can't stress that enough about the relationship between those angles. You don't understand that relationship? All right, moving on. Okay. So similar to here, of alternate exterior angles, they're congruent. Is that true? If these angles are congruent, do we set them equal to each other? Yes and no. I just see you all writing. Maybe I'm wrong. So is this the correct setup? Yes and no?
No.
Alternate exterior angles, they are congruent. It is the correct setup. They're congruent. There's your setup. Now you should be able to solve for x in 2 steps. Oops. That's not totally correct because that should have been a plus 19. Where's your agenda? You there, you're back. Whatever you miss, get from a neighbor or get it on the video. X's are on the opposite sides. In fact, I should have you all try this one. Should only take you about 2 minutes to get this problem solved.
What was this, the setup?
No, that should be a plus, sorry, plus. Put a plus sign right there. Yeah, make that second equal sign a plus sign. Okay. Now, I would, if I were you, which x is smaller? Move that one. Yeah, but do you add or subtract the 3x? Do that. That's step number 1. Minus.
So am I switching these two?
You're not don't switch any. What do you mean switch?
So,
Yeah, that's what you do. Minus 3x, minus 3x.
I do.
That's only 4x. That's not a 14x. That's a 4x. Okay. That should be a minus 19. Oh, I'm wrong. I'm wrong too. Again, you all gotta catch me. I made a mistake. Again, I'm surprised nobody had said, hey, Mr. Connors, that should be a minus 19, not a plus 19. Sorry about that. You got the right, you were right, Andrew. Your X is good. So once you get that X, that's my fault. My fault. Mhm. Okay, don't do that. If this is your only term, sorry, don't move a term when it's all by itself. You're moving something from over here.
so it's minus 19.
Plus 19, opposite of minus, plus 19. That's right. You got it right. You got it right. And once you get your value of X, plug it in. So just plug it into one of these guys, okay? So it's only either angle. That's perfect. Everything you did was right. So in the end, what did we get for the X?
35.
35 was X. Oops. And then what did we get for the angle? So 3 times 35 plus 16 is 121. If you did 4 times 35 minus 19, you should get 121 as well. Very good. So good job. Yep, that's how we do it. Questions? Again, you need to, if you're still struggling solving for equations, you need to practice. Look them over. Look what you're doing. Practice. Know when you're switching terms versus combining. Okay, any questions on this one? All right. Now, unlike the previous one, this next one, unlike the alternate exterior or alternate interior, consecutives have to add up to 180. So what would be our setup for this problem? If they add up to 180, do I do 7x minus 1 equals 13x minus 19? Yes or no? Is that my setup? Or is my setup going to be so which is it? First or second? Top or bottom? Somebody give me a pick. It's going to be the bottom. Add up to 180. It's this setup. Here's your setup. Now, unlike the previous problem, the 7x and the 13x are on the same side. So do we add them, subtract? What do we do here? What's going on with the 7 and 13? Are we doing opposites or just add them up as is? Same side. Think about money in a pocket. You have 7 in one pocket, 13 in another. How much total do you have? What's 7 plus 13? 20. And then, so you owe $1, and you owe 19 more. How much do you owe altogether? So what's -1 minus 19? What do we get? You should also get, so you should have 20x minus 20. It's a -1, -19, same side of the equal sign. You get -20. Now, are we at a point where we can solve for that x? Yeah, you can solve for x at this point. You should be able to do that. Beware, 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 beware. -1, -19. Then negative or positive. So you start off as 20x plus 20 and 20x minus 20.
Isn't it closer because it's when
Uh-uh.
you're adding people to
No. If you multiply two negatives, you get a positive. But think about it like you're buying something for $1, now you're buying something for $19. You still owe. You're still owing altogether. Watch your opposites. Opposite, opposite. That's correct. Yes, you got it. And we gotta be careful with our opposites. So now you're on the track of something with an X. Okay, so you're on the right. Okay, you're on the right track. So think about what's our next step. Okay, that's perfect. All right. So -1, -19, since they're on the same side, you just bring in two negatives together. So that's why we get 20 total negatives. Yeah, 20 on both sides. So 20x equals 200. But then what do you do to both sides to get x by itself? What's our last step here? So 20 times x is 200. What's the opposite of multiplying by 20? You should know this by now. Divide. To get x is 10. Thank you, Andrew. And then just substitute. 7 times 10 minus 1. 13 times 10 minus 19. And what did we get for our angle measures? What were the two numbers? Anybody have them? Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. Good job. 69 and 111. And make sure they add up to 180. Some of us have been checking, doing a good job checking. Some of us, not so much. Questions? No questions here, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Okay. A couple other things I want to mention. Let's see our time. All right. Again, setup is key. Consecutive angles add up to 180. There's your setup. Solve. Okay. Final questions on this one before I go to the next one, because I know the next one I really want to talk about it. I know some of it's a little bit out of order. So I think this next problem, we went from units 1 and 2 to unit 8. Okay. Got it? Ready? And again, I don't know why we're passing notes to each other. I'm not going to be able to pass notes on the final. In fact, don't even, Don't even plan on sitting next to each other during the final because I'll make sure that will not happen. All right. Here's what we have going on. This was from Unit 8. Some of us really struggled with a question like this. I think it was a little bit different. But what I really want you to understand is this is your equation. Your general formula, if you have a circle, depending on what you have going on, it could be two ups. I know that's not the best drawing. Anytime it looks like this, starts on the same point, cuts through the circle at two different places, and this is going to be your larger arc. Smaller arc right here. And then your angle, remember your angle is going to be between, your angle is located here. A lot of us thought this was the arc. Your arc measure is going to be here. The two arcs are going to be here and there. Angle measure is going to be exactly between the two lines off the circle. This is not on the circle. A lot of you made that mistake. Now, here's the most important part. What I also tell everybody is label. Okay, I need an angle measure. I need a larger arc. I need a smaller arc. I need to figure out what two out of the three do I have. Well, here you go. Larger arc, this outside here, the outer ring, they gave it to you, 120. Smaller arc, it's located here. So you, again, you need to understand where's your larger arc, where's your smaller arc. So it's again, larger arc, smaller arc. Now, what do we know our angle measure? Do we know what the angle measure is right given this diagram? Do we have an angle measure? Yes or no? Do we see an angle measure? Ladies, gentlemen, do we see an angle measure here? Yes or no? You're right, Norcus, we don't. Mark it as an X. So now, here's your setup. Two times the angle measure, we don't know it, so it's just 2 times X. We have a larger arc, 120. And we have a smaller arc, 40. Now, is there enough information to solve for X? Can we solve for X given what we see here? Well, what's 120 minus 40? What's 120 minus 40? Okay, again, let's hide those phones. Can we solve for X at this point? Do we have enough? Yeah, you can. Again, the most important part is getting that set up. If I were you, if you see a diagram like this, most important things, here's your list. List what you have. List what you need. So it's list, okay, angle measure, larger arc, smaller arc. And then use your equation. 2 times the angle measure. And then larger arc minus small arc. This is what you need to do. Given this diagram, this is setup. Now, anybody find a value of x for this? I think somebody did. What'd you get for x? Yeah, what'd you get? All right, Araceli says x is 40. Do we agree with her? I agree. X is going to be 40. It's rare sometimes that your angle measure and your smaller arc are the exact same. It's rare, but it can happen. Anybody questions? All right. Last thing I want to talk about. I'm not gonna have a whole lot of time. You're only gonna have one problem. Now, what I do for these, the order doesn't matter, but what I do is I do x2, y2, x1, y1, x2, y2, x1, y1. But now, the one thing you really have to do when you do your substitution, this minus sign in the middle always stays in the middle, regardless of whether or not your second number is positive or negative. That minus sign is always in the middle. So y2 negative 4 minus 0, that's not bad. But then it's x2 negative 6 minus negative 3 for x1. But what's really taking place with this minus negative? Can anybody tell us what this minus negative becomes? Yeah, that's a plus sign. And then just take care of your tops, take care of your bottoms. Negative 4 minus 0 is negative 4. Negative 6 plus 3, negative 3. What happens with minus and plus? What happens when you divide two negatives? Yup. So this first one's going to be 4 over 3. And you can't leave it as negative 4 divided by negative 3. You have to make it 4 over 3. This other one's going to be rather easy. Because what's 3 minus 3? What's 3 minus 3? 0. Now, what's really going on with this minus negative? So 5 minus negative 7 really becomes what? 5 plus 7. So 5 plus 7 is, let me get rid of that minus sign here. So 5 plus 7 becomes what number? You have 0 over 12. Now, does it matter what that bottom number is in the end? Because 0 divided by anything gives us 0. All right. Okay, we're going to stop here. We're going to continue. We're going to basically continue this.